'70s didn't invent heavy metal, but it forged it. This was a decade where music stopped pretending. Gone were the bright colors and dreamy melodies. What emerged was primal, unfiltered, and at times downright terrifying. These weren't just songs. They were battle cries, and each one hammered a nail into the birth casket of a brand new sound. The following tracks didn't just influence heavy metal. They were its blood, its bones, its blackened soul. Let's go back to the beginning, where it all got heavy. 1. Black Sabbath, 1970. The rain falls. A bell tolls. A distant thunder rolls in. And then that riff. Slow, menacing, unrelenting. When Black Sabbath unleashed their self-titled debut track in 1970, the world didn't yet have a name for what they were doing. But everyone felt it. Ozzy Osbourne's voice trembled like a cursed preacher. Tony Iommi's guitar sounded like a haunted cathedral collapsing in on itself. This wasn't psychedelic. This wasn't blues. This was doom, set to 6 strings. Released on Friday the 13th, Black Sabbath wasn't just a song. It was a prophecy, one that warned the world. Rock was no longer safe. Heavy metal had just drawn its first breath. 2. Dazed and Confused, Led Zeppelin live versions, 1970 to 1973. It started as a cover, but Led Zeppelin didn't play covers. They resurrected them. When Jimmy Page took Jake Holmes' obscure folk blues number, Dazed and Confused, and rewired it with bowed guitars, thundering bass, and the sensual wail of Robert Plant, he turned it into a seismic event. The studio version from Zeppelin's 1969 debut laid the groundwork. But it was on stage, in front of thousands, in midnight darkness, where it mutated into something more sinister. The feedback, the chaos, the raw, improvisational violence. Each live performance was a ritual. And with every one, Zeppelin drilled deeper into the primal essence of metal, fusing blues roots with something cosmic and terrifying. 3. In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Iron Butterfly, 1968, but lit the fuse for the '70s. Before there was Black Sabbath, there was Iron Butterfly, drifting somewhere between acid and apocalypse. In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida wasn't metal in the way we'd recognize it later, but it hinted at it. Over 17 minutes of distorted guitars, ritualistic drums, and organ lines that sounded like the gates of hell creaking open. Don't you know that? It was excessive, it was heavy, and it was unlike anything that had come before. In 1968, this was considered weird. By 1972, it was a blueprint. Bands took note. Metal didn't have to be fast, it just had to weigh you down. 4. Paranoid, Black Sabbath, 1970. It was written in 20 minutes. But it changed everything. Paranoid was never supposed to be a hit. It was filler, something to round out an album. But what Sabbath accidentally created was one of the first pure expressions of metal urgency. Fast, riff-driven, emotionally claustrophobic. It was the sound of a man spiraling inward, of a society unraveling, of a genre sprinting from its blues roots into a new and thunderous identity. Where Black Sabbath haunted, Paranoid punched, and millions felt it. 5. Speed King, Deep Purple, 1970. Deep Purple didn't always get the credit, but they were architects in their own right. With Speed King, they let go of the flower power drag and floored the gas pedal. It was chaos from the first second. Screeching guitars, organ flames, and Ian Gillan's operatic howl. This wasn't just heavy. It was fast. The track blended classical flourishes with pure rock muscle, something no band had dared to do with this much velocity. You can hear the roots of thrash, the DNA of power metal, and all of it packed inside a song that felt like a bomb going off in a cathedral. Deep Purple didn't just flirt with metal. They kicked open the doors and walked in swinging. 6. Immigrant Song, Led Zeppelin, 1970. The battle cry, the Viking anthem, the roar. Clocking in under 3 minutes, Immigrant Song wastes no time. It opens with Plant's wail, part myth, part war chant, and charges headfirst into a relentless gallop of Norse imagery and propulsive riffs. There's no fat, no filler, just a hypnotic, pounding rhythm that echoed across a generation of metalheads. Bands like Iron Maiden and Amon Amarth would later take its sword and sorcery blueprint and build entire careers on it. But it started here, in Iceland, with Zeppelin screaming toward Valhalla, and heavy metal answered. Seven. Children of the Grave, Black Sabbath, 1971. By 1971, Sabbath wasn't just experimenting, they were defining. Children of the Grave was revolutionary not just in sound, but in message. This was political metal, anti-war metal, metal that stood up, looked society in the eye, and said, "This is your fault." The guitar tone was darker, the drums more tribal, the urgency unmatched. It was groove-driven but heavy, like the world's heaviest protest song. It told the children of the Vietnam era that peace was no longer enough, that resistance would now come in distorted power chords and a wall of sound. This wasn't escapism. This was confrontation. 8. Fireball, Deep Purple, 1971. Imagine hearing this in 1971. A roaring engine kicks off the song, and before you can blink, you're caught in a hurricane of sound. Fireball was speed incarnate, and even though the band themselves later felt it wasn't their strongest, its influence is undeniable. This was proto-speed metal, a precursor to everything bands like Motorhead and Judas Priest would soon perfect. The song didn't just rock, it raced. It was proof that metal could move fast without losing weight. That aggression didn't mean chaos, it meant control. 9. One of These Days, Pink Floyd, 1971. Before the lasers, before the dreamy sonic landscapes, Pink Floyd had a moment of asterisk pure menace. One of These Days is instrumental for nearly all its runtime, until a single distorted voice growls. One of these days, I'm going to cut you into little pieces. The bass line slithers, the guitars shriek, and buried beneath it all is a sense of dread that most metal bands would kill to replicate. Floyd didn't stay in the darkness for long, but in this track, they proved that atmosphere could be heavier than 1,000 riffs. 10. Rock Bottom, UFO, 1974. And then came UFO, a band caught between blues rock and space age. But with Rock Bottom, they did something no one saw coming. The song starts grounded, tight, bluesy verses and a clean vocal line. But then it explodes. Michael Schenker's solo doesn't just soar, it levitates. For nearly 4 minutes, the guitar breaks away from gravity and takes metal with it. This was shred before shredding had a name. It was technical, emotional, and far ahead of its time. In the years to follow, bands like Metallica and Megadeth would cite this very track as a game changer. And the world of heavy metal, once dark and dirty, suddenly looked up and saw stars. Heavy metal didn't arrive in a single moment. It didn't wear a name tag or come with instructions. It was stitched together, in riffs, in screams, in rebellion. Born from blues, baptized in psychedelia, and raised in the fires of war and political unrest, it became something the world had never seen. These 10 tracks were more than just songs. They were foundations. They told a generation it was okay to feel angry, to be loud, to question everything. They offered no easy answers, but they gave us soundtracks to fight through the silence. And though the genre would evolve, thrash, doom, death, black, it would always carry the fingerprints of these early architects. So next time you hear the roar of a Marshall stack or the primal scream of a frontman unchained, remember where it started. In the rain, with a bell, and a guitar that sounded like the end of the world.